Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome to tonight's stream where we're going to review a couple important topics, of course, from yesterday's 2022 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Hopefully, you guys are doing well, and hopefully, after the race, you've calmed down from whatever happened in that race. Obviously, if you were fans of certain teams, you would have been either elated or massively disappointed, especially, of course, if you are a Ferrari fan, and hopefully as well you're looking forward to the return to Montreal this weekend for Formula 1. But yeah, tonight not going to be the longest stream in the world. It'll probably still go an hour, to be honest, this stream tonight, so yeah, still going to be a decently long stream. But yeah, the two topics we're going through tonight is Ferrari, of course, and that's the main topic of the stream, and just how they've lost the lead and possibly lost Charles Leclerc the World Championship in 2022. And also, we're going to get onto McLaren after that, and the Ricciardo Norris little controversy we had in the race yesterday. And I'm going to show how Ricciardo definitely was held up quite a bit by Norris in terms of the amount of pace he lost, and definitely cost Ricciardo probably at least one position, if not more. So we'll get into that later on as well. We'll probably cover a couple bits of news as well. Also, a very strong rumour has come out today regarding a seat for next season at Williams, which I think you guys know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. And yeah, we'll get onto that probably towards the latter part of the stream. But yeah, no matter what time it is in your part of the world, hopefully you guys watching having a good day. And I'm going to try and make this a regular occurrence. But if I do miss any comments in the live chat that you guys post, make sure, if I do miss them, to instead post them in the comments section of the video. And then probably this Sunday or next Monday, where I'm going to do a stream after the Canadian Grand Prix, I will respond to them. That's probably the latest I'll respond to them. So yeah, make sure to post them in the comments if I do miss your comment in the live chat, and like I said, eventually I will get to it. But let's quickly just refresh the memory when it comes to what actually happened yesterday, and let's get into the results of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. So Max Verstappen won for Red Bull, his first podium and first win in Baku. Sergio Perez finishing in second, and also Red Bull's third win in Baku in 6 races in Azerbaijan. So 50% record in Baku. Very good there for Red Bull, and their third 1-2 in 5 races. George Russell finished on the podium for the third time this season. Lewis Hamilton finished in 4th place. And then it was Pierre Gasly 5th, Sebastian Vettel 6th, Alonso 7th, and then Ricciardo 8th, Norris 9th, Ocon 10th. Bottas, Albon, Tsunoda, Schumacher, Latifi, and Stroll were the finishers that did not score any points. Stroll didn't really finish the race, but he did do enough laps to be classified amongst the finishers. So that's why he is in 16th place. And the retirements, the official ones, Kevin Magnussen, Zhou Guanyu, Charles Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz. Of course, both Ferrari cars, and 4 out of the 5 retirements in Baku yesterday were Ferrari-powered cars. An absolute disaster for them. And yeah, we're about to get into what happened at Ferrari yesterday. Just want to quickly, before I start actually talking about it, just want to quickly say this is going to be uploaded, this part of the stream, as a stream clip tomorrow for anyone who can't catch this part of the stream or only can catch bits of it, to make it easier for people who like to watch, shorter content. So I will, in a second, start recording this part of the stream, and then we will, like I said, get going on this topic. And also, make sure, whilst I'm doing this topic about Leclerc and Ferrari, make sure to, in the comments section and in the live chat, post what you think about Leclerc and his season so far, Ferrari and their season so far, and let me know, based on what I've said, let me know, what do you think, in terms of the championship, what is realistic going forward for Ferrari and Charles Leclerc? And do you think Ferrari have ruined Leclerc's hopes enough to the point that he, can't really mount a serious challenge to Max Verstappen at this point? Reminder, 38 points behind he is now compared to Max Verstappen. It's not, is it 38 points? No, it's 34 points, sorry, not 38 points. But yeah, make sure to post in chat, and I'll get to your comments once we're done with this topic. But of course, at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, Charles Leclerc, when leading in a great position, very fast car, as we saw in qualifying, even though it wasn't the greatest start to the race, he was in a very, very good position. The Red Bulls absolutely in that Grand Prix were going to come back at Leclerc and Ferrari and possibly still win the Grand Prix, even if Leclerc didn't have the issue that he had with his car. But once again, in the races we've had in the last 2 or 3 weeks, Ferrari have completely destroyed Charles Leclerc's chances of winning the Grand Prix, but also pulling out a good lead in the Drivers' Championship over Max Verstappen, and that is a big reason why Max Verstappen currently leads the championship. And what we're going to do here is look at, of course, the start of the season and how it looks so good and so easy, the Ferrari team, after the first 3 Grand Prix, and then look just how it fell apart, and also look at, going forward, how Ferrari can fix this reliability problem they have at the moment, and also look at the damage that has been done in terms of the championship and what the championship standing, would look like if Ferrari weren't such clowns. So let's now get into it. So in Bahrain, first Grand Prix of the season, of course, Charles Leclerc got just an absolutely brilliant victory. Wasn't the biggest surprise the way he won. We know he is very quick around the Bahrain International circuit. We've seen him do very, very well there in the past. Of course, pole position back in 2019, and we knew coming into that weekend after the end of testing, we knew that Ferrari had a very, very good car for 2022, and he proved it by getting a relatively comfortable victory. Max Verstappen did give it his best go, but Charles Leclerc was just so good in that Grand Prix, kept his head, and got a very, very good victory. Of course, in Saudi Arabia, Verstappen would respond with a victory of his own, but of course, Verstappen did retire in that Bahrain Grand Prix. And after Max Verstappen retired yet again in the Australian Grand Prix, Charles Leclerc went on to take probably the most dominant win for the Ferrari team in a very, very long time. And after this Grand Prix, there was plenty of people online and in the community thinking, you know what, this really could be, including myself, by the way, there was plenty of people thinking this really could be Ferrari's year because their pace was incredible. They were miles quicker than any other team. Red Bull were way behind the Ferrari team that weekend. Charles Leclerc would pull his championship lead out to a very healthy one just after the Australian Grand Prix. And here is what it looked like in the top 5 of the championship when he did win that Australian Grand Prix. He was leading by a massive margin of 34 points to the next car. The next car wasn't even Max Verstappen. It was George Russell and the Mercedes, and we know the Mercedes car has been very slow this season. Carlos Sainz was in 3rd, Perez 4th, Hamilton 5th, Verstappen not even in the top 5 of the championship at this point after the first 3 Grand Prix. He was only about 2 or 3 points, I believe, behind Lewis Hamilton. And at this point, I'm not going to lie, obviously at that time I wasn't able to do content because I had internet problems, but I thought after this Grand Prix, you know what, if Leclerc wins the next race and Verstappen has another, non-podium or a retirement, then I think the championship could be done already. So, yeah, was looking very, very good for them. And even though we knew Ferrari from the past had in their locker the possibility to throw away good results. At this point, I still thought, you know what? Even though they have that in their locker, their car is that good, they might still be able to win the championship from such a good point. And I definitely did not think that, you know, after about 3 or 4 races, they would fall to this point. I thought it would take at least 2 or 3 months for Red Bull to not even take the lead of the championship, but get, you know, within 20 points of Leclerc in the drivers' standings, and for Red Bull to close the gap to Ferrari in the constructors' standings. So Ferrari, like I said, we're in an absolutely brilliant position in Australia, but obviously after this Grand Prix, the tables were turned at Imola, where Charles Leclerc, after a competitive weekend still, but not the best weekend they were hoping for, he was running in 3rd place behind the 2 Red Bulls who just had the better speed that particular weekend. He, you know, pushing very, very hard, tried to close down and hunt down Sergio Perez towards the end of the Grand Prix, and of course made a big mistake towards the end of the lap over the final chicane curbs, and was very lucky not to crash out fully of the Grand Prix. Would come home to finish in 6th place and lose about 7 points from his Grand Prix. Or I think it might have been actually 6 points, because I think he got the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as he was coming back through. But even though this was a disappointing Grand Prix, and Charles Leclerc was definitely the reason why it was a lot worse than it should have been, this was and is, to this point, the only mistake Charles Leclerc has made that has actually had a proper effect on the results that Ferrari have had this season. Charles Leclerc even admitted, of course, after the Grand Prix, you know, it's his mistake, pushed too hard, and he will try not to do it again. And since then, hasn't done so. And you have to say, as we'll get onto in a moment, when it comes to the blame game and the blame share, Charles Leclerc doesn't really take that much of it. Yeah, he'll take some for this, but for everything else, you would have to pin it on the Ferrari team. Then we went to Miami. Not that bad of a defeat for them in Miami. Red Bull, I think, had the faster car that weekend. Ferrari didn't really make any mistakes. Of course, they got the front row lockout. Benefited, of course, from Max Verstappen making a mistake on his final run in qualifying, and Verstappen proved then in the race that the Red Bull was the better car for that circuit. But like I said, it wasn't a bad defeat. They just weren't quick enough, which does happen in championship fights. You can't win every single Grand Prix and only lose some Grand Prix based on no mistakes. Sometimes you just lose a Grand Prix because you're not quick enough. But going into the next 2 races in Spain and Monaco, because of the layouts, we knew going into those races that Ferrari would be the favourites and would have, without a doubt, the best car for those tracks. And it proved to be the case. Leclerc on pole in Spain by 3.5. Was it 3.5 tenths? Or it was 3 tenths of a second, I think, in Barcelona. And had a pretty good pole position as well in Monaco. And Ferrari actually locked out the front row in Monaco as well. And if you had told me after the Miami Grand Prix that Leclerc and Ferrari would be in those positions, I would say, really, that it should have been 2 wins from those Grand Prix, even though there is still possibility that Red Bull could have responded had it not been for Ferrari's own failures, as we'll get into in a second. It's very hard, most of the time, if you look at the history of, starting on pole position from those circuits, it's very hard to lose a victory from pole position. But of course, at the Spanish Grand Prix, after Max Verstappen as well made a very big mistake, Charles Leclerc had his race destroyed by the first of a very costly Ferrari engine failure. Like I said, Max Verstappen made a mistake in the first, 15 laps of the Grand Prix, going off at turn 4. Obviously, Carlos Sainz did that as well. But Leclerc, by the time his retirement came, which I think was about lap 30-ish, leading the race he was by 13 seconds. He was going to win the race by an absolute mile and probably get the fastest lap as well. But then, obviously, his engine stopped. It got him far enough to get to the pits, but it was absolutely destroyed. And Max Verstappen eventually took the victory, and Red Bull got a 1-2. And that is the Grand Prix where Red Bull officially got the lead of the championship. So at this point, Ferrari are now massively under pressure. to respond in Monaco, and they did with a front row lockout in qualifying. But as I covered in my video a couple weeks ago, which I'm sure will be in the description box down below if you want to watch how Ferrari lost the Monaco Grand Prix, they did it in typical Ferrari style. Red Bull tried to force Ferrari into a mistake on strategy, and that's exactly what they did. They pitted Leclerc 1 lap too late for the intermediate tyres, and actually gave Carlos Sainz the best strategy option out of them all, which is a very weird decision, because why would you not give Leclerc that when obviously he's the number one at the team, in the lead, and obviously leading the Drivers' Championship? So, made absolutely no sense there. And obviously Leclerc eventually, and after getting held up behind Carlos Sainz pitting for dry tyres, he would finish eventually Leclerc in 4th place and lose a boatload of points again, and lose the win of the Monaco Grand Prix that he so much desired. And Ferrari completely took it away from him and destroyed it for him. A terrible strategy decision from that race. But like I said, if you want to watch a bit more in depth how it all happened, then you can by watching the video in the description about that. But coming to Baku, obviously Ferrari, they still do have a quick car. We have to remember that. And in qualifying, Leclerc got a very good pole position, 0.3 of a second clear of the rest of the field. And it looked as though, even though Red Bull, we knew were going to be very quick in the race, we knew that Leclerc and Ferrari still had like a 50% chance, probably at best, to win the Grand Prix. So we knew there was still a very good opportunity there for Ferrari to bounce back and to try and get Leclerc back into the championship against Max Verstappen, and Red Bull also in the Constructors' Championship. But at the start, Sergio Perez got a better start than Leclerc. Leclerc also locked up his inside front, which definitely hurt his pace in the first stint of the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen would be all over the back of him, as we can see here, in the first 10 to 15 laps, and it looked as though it was only a matter of time until Max Verstappen overtook him. But then the virtual safety car came out because Carlos Sainz had his car stop on track, or just off the track, for a technical problem with his car, and Ferrari made the smart decision, I think, to pit his car. It was the best decision they could have made, because it gave Ferrari the best opportunity, I believe, to win the race. Because if they stayed out, I think Red Bull would have had probably an easier road to victory, of course, if Leclerc had remained in the Grand Prix. And then once the two Red Bulls pitted, Leclerc was comfortably in the lead. Obviously, the Red Bulls were now coming back at Leclerc in terms of lap time and were starting to close down the gap. But Leclerc, he had the advantage at that point at the Grand Prix, and like I said, was leading comfortably. And then this happened. About lap 20, lap 21, his engine blew to smithereens, a classic engine blow-up like we've seen back in the V10 days, and he was out of the race. And that made a double retirement for the Ferrari team, and because of that double retirement and Red Bull getting a 1-2 in the Grand Prix, that means for sure the Constructors' Championship is wrapped up, because we know if Ferrari, they do have a very fast car, of course, but if they can't hold on to a 46-point lead and they, concede about 70-odd points to Red Bull over the course of 5 races, there's no way they're going to close in on Red Bull in the Constructors' standings. And for the driver's side, it has made things very difficult now for Charles Leclerc, because now he has to continue driving, obviously, like he has for the last 4 or 5 races, which is basically perfectly, but also hope that his team can at least give him a chance of actually winning a race, rather than teasing him about the possibility of winning a Grand Prix, which is essentially what they are doing at the moment. But after that retirement, this is how it has left things in the championship. Max Verstappen is now leading on 150 points. Sergio Perez is second, now overtaking Leclerc on 129 points. And Charles Leclerc, 34 points behind. That's not dead and buried, and I do have to emphasize that I don't think his hopes are over. I don't think the championship is over, but I think it's mostly over at this point because, like I said, if Ferrari can't do enough to help him keep a 46-point lead that he had only 2 months ago, then I don't see how he's now going to reverse this back into, winning the World Championship later this season. I just don't see how they can help him. But I'm going to still give him a chance because he is still close enough to be given still a chance in the championship. And of course, you never know, Red Bull could retire for the next race and Leclerc win it, and then that would close things up right again. But yeah, Leclerc now a massive deficit on that side. And in the Constructors' Championship, it is now almost 100 points in Red Bull's favour. And given how strong Red Bull are this season, how strong their driver lineup is, I think it's done, really, in the Constructors' Championship. But what I'm going to get on to now, quickly, before we go to a news article, is what the championship standings would look like if Ferrari had not cost Leclerc the Spanish, Monaco, and Azerbaijan Grand Prix. This doesn't include, me altering the standings for, the mistake at Imola. I've kept, the points loss that he had there. I've kept that in because I'm more so focusing on the points that Ferrari have cost Charles Leclerc rather than just an overall, what points have been dropped that shouldn't have been dropped for the championship effort. So let's now get into that. And you're going to be very surprised how many points have been lost and how it would actually look if Ferrari were a competent team. Here it is. This is how the championship standings would look if Leclerc had won the Spanish Grand Prix, won the Monaco Grand Prix, and had finished second, at least, in Baku. That's what the championship standings that I've altered account for. I still think Verstappen would have won on the fresher tyres, but even if, after, say, Leclerc, let's say he had won in Spain and Monaco, even if Max had won in Baku yesterday with Leclerc second, Charles Leclerc would still have a 33-point lead. And of course, it's 25 points plus a point for race win and obviously fastest lap. So that's still a pretty comfortable gap to have if he did have it at this point of the season. That's how drastically different it would be if Charles Leclerc was driving for a more competent outfit than Ferrari. If it was any other team, well, maybe not any other team, but if it was a Mercedes or a Red Bull team that had the type of car Ferrari do and Leclerc was driving for them, it would probably look like this. Leclerc still dominantly leading the championship, and probably, if he was in this position, he would be the favourite to win his first world title and Ferrari's first world title in 14 years. Just disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful on the part of Ferrari, what they have done to Leclerc's championship charge. Now I'll just move back to some pictures here, and I'll quickly go to a news article about Ferrari and their reliability to show how it's not all good, let's say, at the Ferrari team on that side. So let me just quickly show this now. This is from Automotor Sport in Germany. Obviously, they're a great publication, probably the best when it comes to Formula One, and massive credit to them for what they do. And there's a couple bits in this article that I just want to read out that I thought was quite interesting. So they talk about first power, then reliability, and it says Ferrari was able to pack up after 21 laps. Carlos Sainz had parked his car on the 9th lap with a damaged hydraulic system off the track. What was once the hallmark of the F175 has been reversed, and what they mean by that was the reliability advantage they had over Red Bull after what we saw in Melbourne. Bonotto, there's a quote from him here saying, "Reliability is a construction site. You don't win races without it. I don't want to blame our technicians. They did an excellent job with the drivetrain. If you look back at where we came from, we did last year with the hybrid system, and this winter made huge leaps in performance with the engine, and it looks like we're paying the price now. And then it says, because the tech for the combustion engine was frozen at the end of February, and the hybrid system has to be homologated at the end of September, it was obvious for Ferrari to first look at the power and performance development. They wanted to take care of the stability later if necessary. The regulations allow for corrections to be made if you can prove to the FIA that it's all about ensuring stability. There was also, I think, another bit of this article that we may also get to in a second that did actually, well, maybe it's not from this article, but there was also a little story that was put out there yesterday in Baku, or from the Baku Grand Prix, that Ferrari have asked the FIA if they can make a alteration to their power unit for reliability reasons, and they've been rejected, so not great for them. And then it says here about the MG UK being a vulnerability, and then it says, the unanimous opinion is that the Ferrari engine has the most power in the field, 4 kilowatts more than Honda, 8 more than Mercedes, and 12 more than Renault. Much more important, however, is the lead in drivability. And then it says about how Toto Wolff thinks that the drivability of the Ferrari power unit is a class above. But then it says that the class leader has a major disadvantage. It's not bulletproof. The higher the mileage, the greater the concern. Customers notice that too. Haas driver Kevin Magnussen, obviously Ferrari-powered car that is, received his third MG UK in Baku. And then he obviously retired in the race. That's what caused the second virtual safety car. This time there was a crash between the turbocharger and the MGU-H, and Magnussen will likely need a third unit from both components in Montreal. Bottas already has them. Leclerc, it says, will probably also reach the maximum of 3 units in Canada with some components in the drive. He and his teammate Sainz are already using the 2 units of the combustion engine, turbocharger, MGU-H, and I think it's supposed to say MGU-K there, or maybe it's supposed to say that, or have used them up completely. So far, Ferrari has made ends meet by putting together a patchwork of still functioning components from different drive units. That's no longer enough. So essentially, what that article says is that because of the power unit freeze on development, Ferrari coming into 2022, firstly focused on outright power and performance, when normally they would focus firstly probably on reliability. That has cost them, because now they're trying to focus all their efforts on reliability, but they have less time to do it. Obviously, it's not great to be trying to fix reliability during the season and, work on that. And they've already had a request to try and make an upgrade to their power unit for reliability reasons rejected by the FIA. So, not looking good for Ferrari. And for Charles Leclerc, even though he hasn't been absolutely bulletproof this season, he has been very, very good this season. Even though Verstappen, leading the championship, and I think you'd have to say Max Verstappen has been, in terms of the championship contenders, the better driver. It's very close between the two, a lot closer than the championship standings would have it. And if Charles Leclerc was able to just drive for a competent racing team, then maybe Charles Leclerc this season, if he was driving for one, would be the world champion. But at the moment, it is not looking good. Let me know, guys, in the comment section down below. Do you think, after what's happened in the the races so far, and especially after the Australian Grand Prix, let me know, do you think it's over for Charles Leclerc? If you don't think it's over and you think he still has a chance, let me know why you think that is, and how you think Ferrari can, somehow get him back into the mix in the standings. Let me know how you think that could happen. And yeah, Charles Leclerc, I feel so sorry for him. Yet another Grand Prix absolutely robbed from his hands. There you go, guys. That is the main topic. And yeah, I think what I said there was absolutely bang on the money. Charles Leclerc was absolutely robbed of, well, maybe not victory. I mean, it would have been close between him and Verstappen, obviously, in Baku. My personal opinion is Verstappen would have won, but yeah, Charles Leclerc would be in such a better position if it wasn't for his own team. And definitely, after what we've seen in the last 3 or 4 weeks, obviously Leclerc, he's contracted to Ferrari until the end of 2024. I mean, if he won the championship this year, I think they'd probably extend that to try and match what the contract Verstappen is on at Red Bull. Obviously, Verstappen is contracted to Red Bull until 2028. And Verstappen will be how old in 2028? How old will Verstappen be? 30, I think. And Leclerc's probably going to be about, 31, 32 in 2028? Yeah. I think Leclerc should be, at this point, having doubts about whether to sign a new contract at Ferrari going past 2024, because even though the Ferrari car is fast, are they going to supply him with enough to win a championship? Which is definitely what he, that's what he can achieve. If he's in the right team, right car, he is absolutely good enough to win the championship. I think we've already seen that this season with how great he's been, obviously, in qualifying. And if he had not had those 2 victories in Spain and Monaco ripped from him, he would currently be sat on 4 wins for the season out of, 8 races, which is a pretty good record to start the season. So, yeah, we'll have to see about that. I mean, personally, if I was Leclerc, I would hold off on signing a new contract for Ferrari and see how the rest of this season goes, and also see how 2023 goes. And if nothing really changes in the next year and a half, then I think if you're Charles Leclerc, you should be looking elsewhere. And trust me, if he starts to look elsewhere for a drive, there will be plenty of teams who will be desperate for his signature. I mean, McLaren, I think, would be one who would absolutely love to have him at their team. Yes, they do have Lando Norris, but I think I don't think they're really a team that goes for the whole number 1, number 2 driver stuff. They've had pretty competitive driver lineups, McLaren, in the last 20, 30 years. So I think they would absolutely, be fine having 2 number 1 drivers, I guess you could say. And you never know. If Mercedes had a seat available and Leclerc was available, I don't think they would be opposed to having him in their car, because I think they know how good he is. So, yeah, if you're Charles Leclerc, you've got to be having doubts about your future at Ferrari, given what's happening, so far. And like I said, it's not over. I can absolutely be proven wrong. 34 points can be overturned. But the reason I think it's a lot closer to being over than I would if, say, Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes were in this position, and I think they kind of were last year, the reason I think it's a lot more over, or closer to over, now, is because it's Ferrari. If it was Mercedes, I'd say it's not over yet, they can still get back into this, but because it's Ferrari and they've just blown a 46-point lead, and now it's swung 34 points in Red Bull's favour, which is like a 70, 75-point swing. I just don't see how it's then going to go back in Ferrari's favour and they're going to swing it all the way back into their favour. I just don't see how they do it. And Red Bull, I think, have a better car this season than Ferrari do in the races, which is what matters the most. Obviously, that's when the points are scored, except for those infamous sprint races. But, yeah, that is Leclerc and Ferrari. Guys, let me know in the live chat right now, what do you think about what happened yesterday in Baku? And let me know, is it over for Leclerc in the championship? If not, like I said, let me know how you think he gets back into it, rather than just saying, yes, he can still win it. Let me know how you think he wins it, or can win it, still from this position. And if you agree with me that that it's not, well, I still don't think it's over, but, over officially, because he's not, if it was 50 points or more, then I would absolutely say that it's over. Or even if he loses this weekend in Canada, I would say it was over. But, yeah, if you think it's close to over, say pretty much over, or it is absolutely over in your mind, then, let me know just what you think in general of the Ferrari team, and yeah, Charles Leclerc's position at Ferrari, given what happened yesterday. Right, I'll read out some comments in just a moment. Just want to say, for anyone new watching, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, because I have got plenty of content coming your way for the rest of the week. That Ferrari topic I just did, if you missed parts of it, or all of it, I am going to upload that part of the stream tomorrow as a stream clip, so don't worry, you'll be able to watch it tomorrow. And if you want to watch it back tomorrow, even though you just saw that part, then you can, obviously, tomorrow. And the stream clip tomorrow about Leclerc there is going to be uploaded at 5 p.m. UK time tomorrow. So, yeah, if you didn't quite catch that part of the stream, then make sure to go and watch that tomorrow. And then, yeah, this weekend, I'm going to be live for the Canadian Grand Prix. A preview on Thursday, Practice 1 and Practice 2 watch along on Friday. Qualifying preview, Practice 3 watch along and qualifying watch along on Saturday. And then a race preview and race watch along / reaction on Sunday. And yeah, with the race reaction stream, by the way, obviously normally after a race watch along, I cut the stream off and go make a new stream, the race reaction stream, and then I start that up about 45 minutes to an hour later. In Canada, because it's late at night for most of my viewers, I'm going to instead just continue the stream and go straight into the reaction as soon as the race finishes. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do for this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix. And when it comes to the timings of all those streams, by the way, I will announce the timings for all those Canadian Grand Prix streams on Thursday on my community tab of my homepage. So yeah, make sure, like I said, if you are not subscribed, make sure to go to that on Thursday, and it should be there. What I can tell you firstly is my next stream that I'm doing, which is the Canadian Grand Prix preview on Thursday. That will be at 8 p.m. UK time that evening. So yeah, make sure if you are new to the channel to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. And as well, don't forget, everyone watching, to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And don't forget as well to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5. Join my Discord server, link below in the description. And yeah. Right. I am going to now come to the chat. Let's see what you guys are saying. Josiah, I think a couple of these comments about to start with, I think were made before the stream actually started. They were made, I think, yesterday or earlier today when it was still a scheduled stream. Josiah says, it's over. Mr. President says, yep, but still there is a chance for him. Tarek Alexander says he will come back and win. Watch and see. Diesel says, sorry, he's too good for Ferrari in his opinion. I'm kind of getting that feeling as well, to be honest, that he deserves better than what he's getting. And by the way, hello to everyone who is watching. And in the chat, Music Monster Man says, dude, that race was so boring. Well, you can blame Ferrari for that, because they were the ones who, they were the ones who cost us a great race, because yeah, there was then no fight for the win that we were going to get, because they both dipped out of the race. Good to see, by the way, Rooksford, obviously my moderator in chat, saying, my question is, how does Max and Charles stack up with future penalties with all the Scuderia's engine issues so far? Is Leclerc behind or due more penalties come the end of the season? Even though Max has had 2 retirements, he actually has less used parts on his power unit than Leclerc does. And I think the reason that is because Verstappen's 2 retirements were not caused by, I think, elements of the power unit. I think they were caused by the fuel line, weren't they? Certainly they were in Bahrain, and I think they probably were in Melbourne as well. So, yeah, Verstappen on the power unit side is actually looking fine. Leclerc, though, yeah, has mostly more used parts. So Leclerc's going to have to start taking engine penalties, probably not until the second half of the season, you know, from the summer break on. But, yeah, he's going to have to start taking some penalties probably in about 2 or 3 months' time. And that will definitely help contribute to a loss for Ferrari in the championship if that's what does happen. Music Monster Man asks, didn't Red Bull admit that they are more at risk of exceeding budget cap than Ferrari? I'm not sure if they said that or not. I think they said they would probably go over. I'm not sure if they admitted that they were more at risk. Ken Waller says Ferrari were the only hope to stop them. Let me find that comment again. Yeah, he says, Ken Waller, Ferrari were the only hope to stop them. Now it's a cakewalk for Max. Season is over. Sparky Pete says, hope your day is going well. As well, here from Connecticut, USA. Good to see you. Sparky Pete in the chat. Rook says, looks like we won't be allowed a thrilling Ham versus Ros season either. Obviously, Hamilton and Rosberg, which is a shame. And yeah, it is a shame because if it wasn't for Ferrari and their unreliability and mistakes and all of that, then we would be heading for a very, very great showdown between Leclerc and Verstappen in the final bit of the season. But I just think Verstappen, now he's out front like he is, I think it's going to be very hard to stop him. Not impossible, but very hard. Let's find some other comments here if I can. Ferrari fans are overreacting, says Jan Sargent. In what way do you believe? Because I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you mean overreacting as in season's done and all of that, then yeah. I'm not sure they're overreacting. Sparky Pete says, when coming to, obviously, the excitement of the Grand Prix, says, it looked promising until Ferrari implosion, but after that was kind of unexciting. Yeah, true. But like I said, we can blame Ferrari for that. Perpetual Richard says, what about Max DNFs? Red Bull have also had their own reliability problems. That's true, but they haven't had it for a few races now. And like I said, it was the fuel line that was the problem there. I don't think it was the actual power unit itself. So, yeah, Red Bull look good. And even if Max Verstappen was to have a reliability issue in Canada and Leclerc benefited from that, I'm not sure Leclerc would actually win that race because you'd still have, Perez in there possibly for Red Bull. So, yeah, even if Red Bull have another reliability problem that costs them a load of points, it's not necessarily going to be a massive loss for them. Sparky Pete says, the end of last year, Mercedes and Red Bull were really track-specific cars, with Lewis pulling a Hall of Fame drive, but most of the year, Red Bull had the best car. Kind of feels that way at the moment, where Leclerc is just driving unbelievably well to keep it exciting, but Red Bull, definitely for the race, rather than qualifying, just have the better car, which is definitely what we saw in 2021. Especially in the first bit of the season. Let's see if there's any other comments there I can read out. Henry Mole says, looking forward to Silverstone though, Charles and Max. Well, yeah, 2019, that was a very, very exciting race and great battle between those two. So it'd be great to have that again. Perpetual Richard says, I think Ferrari can overturn this, but my problem with Ferrari is their race pace, even if they settle their reliability problems. True. Yeah, they don't have the best race pace, and we did actually see that until Leclerc made that pit stop. His race pace was not that great. Wasn't really quicker than Perez. He started to match Perez, but he wasn't really lapping quicker than Perez, even though he was 0.3 quicker in qualifying. And yeah, we've seen that really since the race at Imola, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, that Red Bull have a better race car than Ferrari do. And I think probably have better race drivers as well than Ferrari do. I think Ferrari's drivers are probably a bit more suited to qualifying conditions. Jan Sargent says, I expect Ferrari to win Canada and Red Bull to win Silverstone. I think that's a bit ambitious. I wouldn't say Ferrari are expected to win in Canada. They can win, though, for sure. I think Ferrari have a good chance of winning in Canada because the first sector is, yeah, a very good sector for their type of car. And as well, because of the shorter lap in Canada, even if Red Bull get pole, the gaps will be a lot smaller than they would be in Baku. Yeah, Ferrari have got a great chance in Canada, but how much do you trust them to actually, if they do have a good enough car there, how much do you actually trust them to win? That's the thing. Aline asks, do you think Charles Leclerc could leave Ferrari? It's hard to say because we're so far away from that contract coming up to its, up to its end. I think things would have to go. I mean, Ferrari would have to keep ruining his races, and this season and maybe next season for Leclerc to think, you know what, I'm sick of this, I want to leave. I think even if Ferrari still do this a few times a season, but not enough to the point where it's just laughable how bad they are. Because, I mean, they've only cost Leclerc, 3 out of the 8 races this season. If they cost Leclerc like 6 out of the 8 races this season, then I think Leclerc would be a lot more unhappy with his team than he is now. But we'll have to see. Like I said, we have to see how this season goes and how next season goes as well, and whether Ferrari can keep up this pace that they've got at the moment, or obviously the next, the rest of the season, next season as well, and see what effect that has on the Monegasque. Let me read out some more comments here before we move on. Rooksfoot says Leclerc would be mad to leave Ferrari unless another team that is dominant for a season or two, so 2024 would be a good time to look at option for him. I mean, yeah, for him to leave Ferrari any time before 2024 would be mental, but I think if he's been cost this year's championship and possibly next year's championship, then I think definitely he's got to look at leaving, because he deserves to be, one, consistently fighting at the world champion level and championship level. But I think given how he's performed this season, I think we can absolutely say Leclerc can win a world championship. He just needs the team to be there with him, and obviously doesn't have that. Aline says Leclerc will not win the championship. Verstappen will. Ferrari going to lose Leclerc before 2024. That would be, like I said, a surprise. Chiller says there's still hope for Ferrari. Unreliability doesn't win championships, but Leclerc has got what it takes. If Ferrari don't deliver in the next few races, then that road is going to be rough. Yeah, like I said, there is still a hope, but it's a very small one, I think, at this point. And like I said, I think if God forbid, Ferrari have another engine blow up this weekend, if that happened, then it would absolutely be over, no doubt about it. And I'm pretty sure most people in the community would say that, at least, maybe if not everyone in the community, because if Verstappen, capitalizes on that and wins, then it would go up to like 60 points. But I still think if Verstappen wins this weekend, I think Verstappen will pretty much wrap up the championship. Not for himself, but for Red Bull. Because I still think Perez, because of Perez's speed at the minute and how he's performing this season, I think definitely Perez still has a chance, even though I think, Verstappen is still by far the favourite to win out of those two in the season in terms of who finishes ahead. But yeah, Leclerc and Ferrari, and I said this yesterday, they have to win this weekend in Canada. They have to win. Even if they finish in second, that's not good enough. They have to win the race. There is no excuses whatsoever. They cannot allow Red Bull to win 6 in a row, which is what would happen if they, if Red Bull got the win. Lauren says, I'm just waiting to see what the Silverstone upgrades bring. Well, not sure they're going to really be bringing... they will bring an upgrade probably to Silverstone, or maybe the race after that, Ferrari and Red Bull, but that's probably going to be the last one of the season, and I don't think it's going to be that big, by the way, because, they're struggling to meet the budget cap. But, Lawrence says, because if Red Bull comes out there and has a good advantage, I'm going to give it to them then. Jan Sargent says, Max overturned a 46-point gap, so it's not exactly over this early in the season. True, but it's Ferrari. Do you? That's the thing I'm asking, really, is do you put faith in Ferrari to overturn a 34-point gap when they just blew a 46-point lead and then have gifted another 34 points to Verstappen? I just don't see how. I mean, my opinion at the moment is that Max Verstappen is going to win the championship, and I think there's only like a 20, maybe 20 to 25, maybe 30% at most chance that Leclerc wins the title. But I just don't see how a team that blows that many points to Red Bull in a 2-month span, I just don't see how they then will swing it back their way that far. Again, I'm going to give them a chance because it's only 34 points. Could be a lot worse, but it's, we're getting to the dying embers of his title bid, put it that way. Max Kirsch, Ferrari, the only team. This is a good comment, Max. Ferrari, the only team to not win Monaco after a front row lockout since Ferrari in 2008. That just sums them up, doesn't it? Oh my. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the last non-Ferrari team that locked out the front row and didn't win the race, you'd have to go back to... Oh, God. When would you have to go back to? You'd have to go back to the 1980s, I think. Just trying to think. Did Williams maybe have one when they locked out the front row? No. Not in the 90s. Well, no, they did, I think, 1992. So, yeah. 30 years since the last Well, it might have been 93, actually. I'm not sure. It was 92 or 93, because I think that year Senna won where, Mansell was all over the back of him. I think Williams locked out the front row in that qualifying session. So, yeah, 30 years. The last time a team other than Ferrari bottled a front row at Monaco. Again, just sums them up. It really does sum them up. Lawrence says, I don't see Perez being up there regularly, to be honest, considering the only places he outperformed Max were street circuits, and that was only in quali, since Max is more uncomfortable with the car than Perez. I mean, yeah, I don't expect Perez to be consistently up there, but we have to give him a chance because, he is only 21 points behind. Blade Rise says, I can't see how it's over. Of course, Ferrari need to get their act together, but 34 points can be overturned quickly. Look at Lewis at the end of last year. It's definitely not over. Yeah, but that's Mercedes, though. This is Ferrari. This is a special case. Let's find a couple more comments, and then I'll get to McLaren, because that's the other topic I want to cover in this stream. Seirugara says, I mean, it would be an achievement for Ferrari to get the most pole positions, I guess. Jules Elba says, what do you think are really Ferrari tracks still coming this season? Maybe Silverstone in qualifying, but I think in the race it's going to be very hard to hold back Red Bull, but maybe Silverstone. Paul Ricard, probably you'd put in there for the Ferrari team. Hungaroring for sure. They'll probably win that race because it's a track where Ferrari will probably lock out the front row and probably win that. Then again, they locked out the front row Monaco and they bottled that, so they are they have special abilities to this Ferrari team. Hungaroring, Paul Ricard for sure. Singapore, Zandvoort, and then probably Abu Dhabi, the final race. But I'd say the majority of the tracks between now and the end of the season, I think, are definitely Red Bull tracks. And I think you'd have to look at Red Bull being the favourites for most of those Grand Prix. I think the next Grand Prix on the calendar that you could say Ferrari are the favourites for is definitely the or the Hungarian Grand Prix at the Hungaroring, which is the last race before the summer break in how many weeks from now? 6 weeks from now, that Grand Prix. I mean, like I said, the French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard, I think that Grand Prix will be very close between Ferrari and Red Bull, but I think with that middle sector where it's pretty much flat out, I think Red Bull could really have a good time there in the race if they can hang on to the Ferraris if they are quicker in qualifying. But yeah, I mean, Ferrari are going to have to produce some really big results at circuits where they're not probably going to be as quick as Red Bull, and hope, obviously, for a bit of luck. Killer says, I don't see Red Bull letting Max and Checo race each other. Red Bull has had bad moments in the past with Turkey 2010 and Baku 2018, as far as I can remember. McLaren F1 race, bloody Chazzy, you haven't mentioned me once in this stream. There is a lot of comments, I have to say, in the stream, so sorry about that. But like I said, if I've missed any good ones, then just post them in the comments and I'll get to them in the next few days or so, probably on stream. Let's see if there's one final one I can read out before I get on to the next topic. Just trying to see if there's a good one to read out quick. Perpetual Richard says, one, like I said before, I think Ferrari can fix their reliability, but can they fix their race pace? Leclerc is good at qualifying, but Max is good at winning. And yeah, that's another thing to remember, that even if Ferrari, are making no mistakes and are relying, relying totally on the pace of the car, that doesn't necessarily get them victories. It's not like they have a car like Mercedes had in 2020 and they're making these mistakes. They're not that quick. They still have to work for their victories if they can, have a totally mistake-free race. Anyway, I think it's best we move on. I think we spent long enough on this topic, an hour pretty much. But yeah, let's now go on to the McLaren team. Obviously, yesterday we heard some back and forth on team radio between the drivers and the McLaren team. And in the end, there weren't great feelings at the McLaren team about what happened. A good result for them, 8th and 9th, considering their pace in qualifying was not that special. So yeah, good Grand Prix result for them. But yeah, a bit of taste in the mouth for definitely one of their drivers coming out of the Grand Prix. And what I'm going to get into is how Ricciardo was cost time in the definitely in the first stint of the Grand Prix yesterday, and then once Norris pitted, proved with his pace after Norris pitted that he had quite a bit more speed than Norris at the time of the first 20 laps on his hard compound tyres compared to Norris on the medium compound tyre. So of course, here at the start of the Grand Prix, obviously Norris outqualified Ricciardo and started Norris on the medium compound tyre. Ricciardo was starting the hard compound tyre, which was a great choice for the McLaren team. Obviously, in hindsight, they should have started Norris on that tyre as well, but I don't think they knew at that point that the hard was going to be so good in those hot conditions, but it was. And as you can see here with Norris just ahead of Ricciardo, it was like this pretty much for the first 20 laps before Lando Norris came into the pits for his first and only pit stop. Ricciardo said, he had more pace and was getting very close to Norris, but McLaren told him to hold position. And that was, in hindsight, the wrong decision. I think we even saw it during the race that was the wrong decision, because he was tucked up behind Norris for way too long and used up probably the best of his tyres in too much dirty air. And once Norris pitted, Ricciardo put in some very, very good lap times. Maybe not quicker than Norris, but considering Ricciardo was on a lot more worn tyres compared to Norris, it was, like I said, very good lap times for him. So let me just get to this. This is the lap analysis chart on the FIA website, and obviously shows the the lap time differences between all of the drivers. So if we look here at Ricciardo, obviously the middle column, these two little columns for him, and then for Norris, he's the two little columns on the far right. So for Daniel Ricciardo, his best lap time, as you can see here, by the way, on Lando Norris's, where it says 20, then a P next to it, that's when he pitted, or the hard compound tyre going from medium to hard there. In the first 20 laps, Lando Norris's best lap time, if I just look through here, I think was lap 11, which was just after the virtual safety car of a 1 minute 50.2. And the lap after did a 1 minute 50.3, and a couple laps after that did a 50.3 as well. So that was pretty much the best he could do on that tyre. For Daniel Ricciardo, though, he was doing definitely much better lap times than Norris. Not in terms of his best lap was a lot quicker, but he was consistently a lot quicker than Norris was. You can see here on lap 12 and 13, Ricciardo did a better lap time than Norris's best time in those first 20 laps before Norris pitted of a 150.1. But if you look at the pace difference from lap 11 to lap 20 between Ricciardo and Norris in lap time, Ricciardo miles quicker. Norris, was in the 1 minute 50s and then dropped off 151 on 0.3 on lap 17, then a 52.0, then a 51.2, and then he pitted. For Ricciardo, from lap 11 to lap 16, when Norris was also in the 1 minute 50s, Ricciardo was quicker on lap 12, lap 13, lap 14, quite a bit quicker on lap 15 of how many tenths of a second? 7 tenths of a second. Then he was another 2.5 tenths quicker on lap 16. And then when they started to drop off in time, I think because they were held up behind Fernando Alonso, Ricciardo was, even on lap 18, half a second quicker. So at this point, Ricciardo, up until, say, maybe not lap 13, up until lap 12, Ricciardo at this point, because Norris was only about a second and a half behind Alonso, Ricciardo at this point is probably only losing 3-4 tenths a lap compared to what he would have done if he was ahead of Norris. Because like I said, Ricciardo still would have had dirty air of Alonso coming back towards him. So he wouldn't have really gone, way off into the distance. If there was clear air in front of Norris and Ricciardo was let through, he would have. But because it was pretty tight in that midfield, I don't think he would have sprinted off into the distance. But yeah, from lap 13 to lap 20, Ricciardo is consistently miles quicker than Norris. And that's probably from lap 13 to 20 where Ricciardo, in terms of time, was cost the most, because he is at least half a second quicker in, a few of these is Ricciardo. So, yeah, was cost a lot of time. And if we look at the difference from lap 13 to lap 20, so he was half a second quicker on lap 13, a tenth quicker on lap 14, 8 tenths quicker, and then another 2.5 tenths. Just trying to work out. So, by the time Norris is pitted, Ricciardo has lost from lap 13 to 20 at least 2 to 3 seconds on, say, the cars ahead, being Alonso, Vettel, people like that who obviously finished ahead of him in the end in the Grand Prix. But then from lap 1 to lap, say, 12, Ricciardo's probably lost another 2 or 3 seconds in that part of the Grand Prix. So by the time Norris is pitted on lap 20, Ricciardo, in the Grand Prix distance, has already been cost 6 seconds, I would say, of on-track time. But then once Norris is pitted, look at Ricciardo's lap times. So the first lap time that Norris did that was not affected by, obviously, his outlap was a 150.9 in lap 22. Ricciardo, only 2 tenths slower on that lap, even though Norris is on a 1 lap or 2 lap old hard compound tyre, and Ricciardo, obviously, on 22 lap old hard tyres. And Ricciardo on lap 23 was actually 2 tenths quicker than Norris, and then pretty much the same time on lap 24, slightly slower on lap 25, and then Ricciardo, in the final 5 laps or so before his pit stop, put in some very good laps, dipping into the 1 minute 49s. And you see Norris was quicker than Ricciardo, certainly in the final, I think, 2 or 3 laps before Ricciardo pitted. I think Ricciardo's tyres went off the cliff at about lap 30. But even on lap 27, 28, and 29, Ricciardo, he is slower than Norris, but it's not a massive difference. It's not as big as it should be. So you're seeing, really, that, that Ricciardo, he had a lot of good pace on that hard compound tyre, but couldn't use it because, in those first 20 laps, because he was stuck in traffic. So, yeah, very disappointing there for Ricciardo. And I think, even though, obviously Norris, when Ricciardo was stuck behind Norris, Ricciardo was, Let me just go back to picture here of, say, Daniel Ricciardo. Obviously, when Alonso was getting to the last few laps of his first stint, Norris was stuck right behind him, unable to overtake, and so was Daniel Ricciardo. And they were struggling to overtake, really, because of a lack of straight line speed. But if they let Ricciardo have a go, because Ricciardo was much quicker than Norris at that point on the hard tyre, and would have been way quicker than Alonso on the hard tyre, because Alonso's mediums had gone off. Obviously, Alpine had gone for a very low drag setup, and they didn't have a lot of downforce on their car to keep their tyres in good nick. Ricciardo probably could have overtaken Alonso, and then gained another, 3-4 seconds for his race result. So, overall, I would say that at the end of the day, Daniel Ricciardo was probably cost 5 to 8 seconds in the Grand Prix. If we look at these race results, Ricciardo was only, 3.5 or 3.6 seconds behind Alonso. So he would have beaten Alonso in the Grand Prix had it not been for Norris holding him up for those first 20 laps. And of course, Ricciardo did gain, I think, 10 seconds from pitting under the virtual safety car. And if he was let through by McLaren and was ahead of Norris in that first stint, then he would have, when he pitted under the virtual safety car, he would have come out ahead of Alonso. Because when he came out of the pits after the virtual safety car had ended, he was only 2 seconds behind. So he was definitely cost lap time there by being held up. Not sure he would have beaten Vettel. It would have been close. He wouldn't have been too far behind, but I think Vettel probably just would have got it. But Ricciardo definitely would have finished, I think, in 7th place. And, yeah. McLaren, I know, obviously, they are now Team Lando. Obviously, Lando Norris now has a new contract going up until the end of 2025. Ricciardo is only contracted to the end of 2023. And obviously, there's rumours all the time that Ricciardo could be dropped by McLaren for a new driver. Now, based on what we saw in Baku, Ricciardo should not be dropped because what he did in Baku was very, very good. And I think this season has not been as bad as people would claim. I thought the first 4, 5, maybe not 5 races, but the first 4 races of the season, I thought Ricciardo did really the best he could. We know he's not as good as Norris and not as quick, so I don't think we can expect him to beat Norris on a consistent basis. Outqualified Norris, of course, in Spain. Norris was ill still, but, still factually outqualified Norris there. He's only really had, obviously the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix where he took out Sainz, that was poor from him. But if you look at the overall weekend, he's only had probably 2, maybe 3 weekends out of the 8 so far where he's been poor throughout the whole weekend. So I don't think at the minute there is enough there to be dropping Daniel Ricciardo for next season. If he puts in another few poor performances between now and, say, the end of the summer, until the end of, not the end of the summer break, the end of the European season, which would be the Italian Grand Prix in the second week of September, if he puts in a few more bad performances between now and then yeah, they'd probably have to look at replacing him. But based on what I've seen so far, I don't think there's enough there to replace him, and I think they need to remember, McLaren, that they are a team. It is not Team Lando. They're not only focusing on his race. If Ricciardo is faster and on a better strategy, they have got to utilise that. And if they did, they would have ended up with a couple more points. So, very poor from them when it comes to that. But yeah, let me know, guys, in the chat or the comment section. At McLaren, what would you have done? Would you have let Ricciardo ahead of Norris? And yeah, what do you or what did you think of the whole situation there of them treating Ricciardo not very well at all and treating him certainly less, or not, maybe not less, but kind of like a number 2 driver when, I mean, Norris is definitely the number 1 for the team in terms of he's the best driver in that team, but they're not in a position, McLaren, to be designating number 1 and number 2 drivers. They're not fighting for the championship or, fighting for victories. That's not happening. So, yeah, let me know in the chat what you thought of this whole situation. And I'll read out a few comments about it now if I can find some. Rook says, Nib approves of this analysis. You're damn right he does. I mean, if I had him on, he'd probably just call Norris or maybe not call Norris, but call McLaren a see you next Tuesday. So it'd be very blunt for sure from him. I'll try and read out a couple other comments though to do with obviously what I was talking about with Red Bull. Killer says, Red Bull has favoured Max twice this season when Checo is still in the championship. Checo needs that extra pace to match Max or get ahead of him if Red Bull wants to consider letting them race. I mean, the 2 times yesterday, of course, where they told Perez not to fight, and obviously in Spain, where they told him to let him through, and they told obviously Perez, to let him, Max through. They were completely justified. Perez in Baku yesterday, especially, was not in a position to fight Max on track. Max had way more pace, and there was no reason for them to hold themselves up against what Leclerc was doing on fresh tyres. So, yeah, I don't see a problem with what Red Bull have done this season. And obviously, they are miles out in front at the moment. So, yeah, they're looking very, very good. But I think... hold on. Let me... Because I was going to read out a couple bits of news before I totally finished what I was coming live for. Let me just quickly go to Twitter for what is probably one of the biggest bits of news out there at the moment in the F1 world. So from this, was it FIF1 accredited director? He's a pretty good guy for F1 news. Sergio Rodriguez, and he says Piastri to Williams, close to being done, will be on loan for 2023 and 2024, and Williams looking forward to switch to Renault engines, an announcement expected before summer break. Of course, Latifi will be out. Yeah, not a problem with what they're doing there, Williams. To be honest, I'd put Piastri in the car for Silverstone onwards and just forget about Latifi because he's not doing good enough job for them, and they need to move on from him because he's past his sell-by date when it comes to Formula 1, and there's no point really waiting for 2023 to put Piastri in that car. But it's a good deal that for Williams because they'll probably get a discount on the Renault power units that they'll put into the car for next year. So yeah, that's a good thing there for Williams, and maybe, who knows, in the future it will lead to something positive. But definitely an Alex Albon and Oscar Piastri driver lineup would be pretty good. Certainly the best they could hope for to get in that car, really. But I'll probably go back to these pictures as I'll try and read out some other news if I can. F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali, it has today visited the Kyalami circuit in South Africa for talks over adding the venue to the 2023 calendar. And there are still rumours, very bad rumours, I have to say, that the Belgian Grand Prix track, obviously Spa-Francorchamps, and the French Grand Prix track, Paul Ricard, are one of the two, or the two that could be on the list for being cut. If they cut Spa from the calendar, then that is going to go over very, very poorly with the community. It'll go over very, very poorly. Lewis Hamilton says he won't miss Canadian Grand Prix despite back pain. I'm not surprised by that. I don't think his back's in that bad a shape. Bonotto says they were in a very strong shape before Charles Leclerc retired. No shit, Potter. Latifi given penalty point after passing 12 blue flag lights in front of Gasly. He also said he tried to help Gasly by giving him a slipstream, but I'm not sure that's how that works, mate. And yeah, that's pretty much all the news in the F1 world at the moment. And I think I'll probably come to the end of the stream, so that's pretty much all I want to talk about. Thank you guys for coming along to the stream. And yeah, I will be live again on Thursday night at 8 PM UK time for the 2022 Canadian Grand Prix preview show. And obviously live for plenty of stuff on the Friday, Saturday and Sunday of that weekend. Practice 1, 2 and 3 watch along, qualifying watch along, a race watch along, plus a qualifying preview on a Saturday and the race preview on the Sunday. And also next Monday I'm going to do this stream, type of stream again, you know, a deeper review into some of the big talking points from the Grand Prix this Sunday. So plenty of content, like I said, coming your way in the next week. Also, if you missed me covering the main topic of this stream, the Ferrari Leclerc situation, I am going to post that as a stream clip tomorrow on the channel at 5 PM UK time. So like I said, if you missed it or missed parts of it, then I will post that for you guys tomorrow to watch. Also, if I missed any of your comments, like I said, make sure to post it in the comments here of this video, and I'll get to reading your comment out probably in the next, say, red flag delay, if there's a big one in any of the sessions this weekend. But also, if there isn't, next Monday, I will get to them by then at the absolute latest. I'll make sure to dedicate a portion of the stream to reading out your comments on the videos or streams I've done so far this week. So yeah, make sure to do that if I've missed your comments. But yeah, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and make sure if you do subscribe to pay attention to the community tab on my channel page, because that's where I'll post my full Canadian Grand Prix schedule in terms of the timings and all of the streams. This Thursday morning most likely is when I'll post that. As well, smash the like button, share this video and channel everywhere you can, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5, and don't forget to join the Discord server, link below in the description for that server as well. It would be great to have you in our community. But yeah, until my stream clip tomorrow, and until my next stream on Thursday, previewing the return to Canada and the return to Montreal, obviously a historic and brilliant racetrack. Until then, guys, on Thursday, it has been me, ChazHD. Goodbye.